Hey guys, Andre here to talk with you real quick about the Amino app for Pokémon Sun and Moon, who has sponsored this video. Now, you clicked on this video, of course, to hear our thoughts on Pokémon Sun and Moon. But, if you want to be a part of the discussion yourself, the Amino app for Pokémon Sun and Moon is a great way to do that. It allows you to connect with thousands of Pokémon fans where you can find, share, and discuss all kinds of Pokémon things, like which starter Pokémon might be best suited for you, tips on how to catch them all, and even some rather impressive artwork. A couple of the cooler things I came across in the app include some interesting theories on what exactly is up with a mysterious old man in the Sun and Moon demo, as well as this nifty art of a young Cynthia catching her first Weevil. Trust me, you really wouldn't want to see my attempt at the same thing. There is a lot you can do, so to check it out for yourself, all you have to do is click the links in the description below, or search for Amino for Pokémon Sun and Moon in the App Store or Google Play. And when you're there, you may want to try following some people like me, AndreGX, and voting in my poll on which Pokémon professor is the best professor. And with that, let's get back to part 2 of our Pokémon Sun and Moon review and discussion with Derek Bittner, Catherine Bailey from US Gamer, and Alex Olney from Nintendo Life.
I don't mean to hijack the conversation, but you mentioning the dancing area reminds me. What do you guys think of the Alolan forms?
I love them.
Like, what do you think they add to the game?
I think as you mentioned previously that it builds upon the lore. I think it really does that so strongly. Because it makes so much sense, and I'm just surprised they haven't tried it before. I mean, maybe they sort of brushed upon it in Gen 4 with the Pokemon like Lickitung being able to evolve only in that region, or sort of something like that. It's been a long time since I've played, so that's probably wrong. But, sort of different environments, as, is the case with evolution, different environments, certain things that are introduced have to adapt and change in order to better fit, or they die out. And I think that, it's a brilliant way to sort of, in a way, almost parody the evolution system they've got in there, which they call evolution, which isn't really evolution. So we're finally seeing evolution in a Pokemon game.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. Like, it's really cool to see a lot of these Pokemon that you've known for years. I mean, we've all played since the original generation, and we are very familiar with all of them. And to see Rattata actually have some utility beyond the opening bits, or me actually using Grimer for the first time in a party, it was really cool to go try out these old Pokemon again and see exactly how well they worked out. And I really hope they do continue to have various forms like that, because it just added a lot of twists, new, but it's the same but new, and I like that aspect of it.
I'm kind of on the fence about them.
I think it really injects that level of newness that you expect from a Pokemon game, but relying on an older design, sort of augmenting a design, which in a way, sort of some people might call it lazy, but I call it efficient. Because, sort of these designs, people like these designs and people want to see new Pokemon, but, sort of sitting down and creating, 100 new Pokemon or 80 new Pokemon or whatever must be so challenging, because they've gone through so many designs. What are we must be over 800 by now. And, so it's a very sort of efficient way of creating new Pokemon that people are almost guaranteed to like, without having to go and try and create something brand new and fresh. Because recently, sort of not so much in Sun and Moon, and I think they avoided it mainly because of the Alolan forms, but certainly in X and Y and Black and White, there were some real duffers in terms of design, and it's just a good way of getting good designs across, because these classic designs are good, they've adapted them, and it just works.
I think it speaks to the fact that there are well more than 700 monsters at this point. There are only so many ideas that they have in the world, and they're just trying to take some of the pressure off by going back to these classic designs that are going to be recognizable and easily marketable. And the designers can be like, oh, well, I will do something based on this classic design, like Raticate for some reason, or Muck, or Marowak, which I actually really like the new Marowak design. The Fire Ghost with the Lightning Rod ability. That's pretty rad. But I also think that they've been leaning a little too heavily, in some respects, on the original 150. You saw that in the previous generation as well, where you had a lot of original generation monsters, but and to be fair, quite a few monsters from Ruby and Sapphire as well, and a few others getting mega evolutions, because they're like, all right, well, we really want to be able to market Charizard again, so we'll give it a mega evolution now, and bada bing, bada boom, right? And now you can sell plush toys of Meowth and Rattata, but in the Alolan form. So I kind of shrug my shoulders, like, I understand why they're going to go to it, but at the same time, I've always found I've always rolled my eyes a tiny bit at the people who are like, the only monsters Pokemon that exist in my world are the original 150. Like, there are a lot of really great monsters out there, and I feel like every generation manages to introduce a handful of new and interesting ones that really kind of take a place in my heart. And it kind of makes me roll my eyes a little bit to see them kind of falling to the background in favor of yet another variation on the original 150.
I can definitely see that point. I've seen, like, there is that, the more cynical take, or just trying to appeal to the people that were, only a fan of the original and trying to pull them back in. I've also heard people say that the reason they do that is because the original 150 are just not as strong when you compare it to the newer Pokemon that have been introduced.
Well, they've done stat updates on some of the originals just to keep up with the stat creep that has been kind of taken over the series, especially since Black and White. So, I mean, if I recall correctly, Pidgeot got a pretty strong buff last generation, but not enough, obviously. But yeah, they've been surreptitiously pumping up the base stats to keep up with the kind of stat creep that's been going on.
Well, speaking of the Pokemon, what did you guys think of the designs this time around? Like, obviously we can't talk about all of them, we're limited to what was already shown, but in general, what you guys think of what you've encountered?
I would say on the whole, this generation is good. I wouldn't say it's the best generation, but then again, it's difficult to say which one is the best generation, because every generation is going to have, a handful of Pokemon that are kind of rubbish to look at, and you just got to take the wheat with the chaff. But I would say on the whole, this generation has got some really good ones, mainly ones we can't talk about, which is frustrating. But it has got a few crap ones, I'm going to say it. But it does only seem to be a handful, it's very few. I must admit, that was one of the things that really I didn't like about Black and White, was the fact that I really felt that the Pokemon were generally over-designed. I mean, there were some absolutely fantastic Pokemon in Black and White. Don't get me wrong, I am not knocking the games at all. But a lot of the designs just felt like they were clutching at straws, and they tried to do too many Pokemon in one generation, and it showed. This time around, I think they've just about got it right. It's not perfect, but it's good. I like them.
They're okay. I always have to kind of I feel like I go into every generation going, I don't really like this generation, but inevitably, like,
didn't you start with, like, who was it? It was Alex that started with saying this is his new favorite gen, not you. Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's right. I was almost confused at first, but go ahead. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Inevitably, like, I'll be looking at a lot of them and be like, what the heck is up with that design? What? An ice cream cone? What is going on here? But then, as time goes on, they slowly but surely grow on me, and I come to really like a handful of designs. Then I start to associate that generation with those designs. Like, for example, I really hated Generation 5, like, at the outset, but now I look back and I'm like, oh, I love Haxorus. I love a bunch of these other ones that have kind of stuck with me. I love the genies. I love Tornadus with the evolution of Tornadus and stuff like that.
Really?
And last generation, I ended up really loving Greninja and Aegislash and even Gudra. Like, so this generation, I have not found monsters that really stand out to me. I'm a fan of Pikipek's evolution, just off the top of my head. I'm a fan of a few of the other evolutions, but frankly, I don't feel like I've gotten a really good taste of all that the Alola Pokedex has to offer, because, I mean, you have to kind of go looking for them, right? And I've been pushing through the main quest, as I always do. And the way that I always do it is I just kind of blow through the main quest. I don't worry too much about, like, whether or not the team that I'm using is going to be my main team. I just sort of pick up whatever I can find, catch a few things just that kind of stand out to me as being interesting. And once I beat the Elite Four and I import everything through the Pokemon Bank, and then all the online resources start lighting up, and I start seeing what is out there and what is, kind of strong, what is kind of interesting, what I actually want to keep. That's when I start really delving into the Pokedex. So I suppose this is all a very long way of saying that I am going to reserve judgment on the current generation. The starters are okay so far. Like I already said, I didn't particularly like Litten's Final Evolution, but I really like Rowlet's Final Evolution. So,
Yeah, I think some of the evolutions that you come across during the game definitely stand out. Like, I was shocked how cool Wimpod's evolution is, and
very good one.
And Pick-a-Peck, as you said, has an awesome final evolution, especially the new move that it learns. That thing is devastating.
It really can be.
It's there's some really good options in here. There's some really good ones, and I think there's going to be some definite standouts. Like Alex said, they're not all winners, and I'm still sort of processing the ones that weren't revealed before the game was released. But I'm pretty happy with my team, and I went a little bit different. I had Lycanroc on my team. I tried out a bunch of the different Alolan forms to see how they worked out. I don't know. I had fun with them, but again, I can look at a few, and I have one in the top in my head that has not been revealed yet. I need to catch it so I actually understand what the heck it's all about, because it is weird, and I know you guys, it's too vague of an answer for you guys to actually know which one I'm talking about. But there's, as you guys are saying, they're not all winners, but I'd say overall this is a pretty strong showing of new Pokemon.
Just out of interest, did you go for which Lycanroc did you go for in the end? Then did you go for Standard or Angsty Teen?
I went for Standard. I like having speedy Pokemon. So, who was on your team? Out of curiosity, Alex.
Oh God, which ones can I talk about? I'm gonna crack my 3DS open now, turn the volume down, and have a double check, because I'm terrible at remembering these sort of things. I've got Wimpod's evolution. I've got got my Hooters as well, which is my my Decidueye is the one that I had for the most time. I've also got a Vikavolt called Captain Zaps, and another Pokemon that we can't talk about called Mr. Branches.
Okay.
But I can't talk about even it's an evolution, but even the original hasn't been revealed, so I can't talk about it.
Yeah, funny. It's kind of a weird place to be in. That's for sure.
I had Picky-Peck's evolution as well.
I gotta say, probably my new favorite, just as far as utility, Vikavolt is amazing, and I was shocked.
I love him.
I was shocked how much variety you get when it comes to what it learns as it grows in levels. At one point I still have a different type for every different move, and it all naturally learned it.
Yeah, I mean, it can learn Dig. It learns Dig when it's Charger Bug, I think, but it's a levitating Pokemon that's Bug and Electric that learns a ground move. It's it's not normal by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, and its biggest weakness is that it's slow, but I attach a Quick Claw, and all of a sudden this thing can devastate other sides.
Yeah.
I regretted not getting a Vikavolt, because once I fought one, I was like, oh, that's really cool. I like the design, so it was very sleek. So, but my own party, I ended up using a bunch of monsters from the previous generation that I'm not technically allowed to reveal. But in addition to my Litten evolution and my Pick-a-Peck evolution, I also have Ash Greninja, and I ended up just dropping Solgaleo into my party because, I have no qualms whatsoever about using the legend that they give you at the end of the game to get through the Elite Four because whatever, I'm just trying to beat the story. And as far as I'm concerned, it's a power trip. I am a high power trainer, whatever. I'm using legends. That's why I'm awesome. Take that. It's not exactly a challenge anyway, so.
Now you see, I found the Elite Four to be a real challenge.
Really?
Yeah.
I really did.
Interesting.
But then again, I didn't use the legendary because I wanted to do it properly. So
Oh, well, maybe I'll go get my Rockruff evolution back out because that was what I replaced it with Solgaleo. So.
Okay.
I see.
Yeah, I definitely went into the Elite Four a little under-leveled, so I was cranking. I was not so much during the Elite Four itself, but the final battle. I was definitely tossing in items like crazy.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
crap.
think I was
I
about.
probably am under-leveled in that respect.
Yeah, I think I was about on average between 5 and 10 levels lower than every single other Pokemon that was there.
I wasn't that bad. I think I was like 5 to 7 levels below.
Traps, just lots of traps. That's all I could do.
Oh boy! Actually, well, speaking of moves, what do you guys think of the Z moves and that whole new aspect of the game?
I found I didn't really care for them. I mean, they sort of present themselves to be these ultimate, super powerful, unbelievable moves. You know, you use this and you can take out anything in a single hit. And that is not the case. And they can be protected against. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they're not these all-powerful things, but that kind of is how they have to be. And I appreciate that they went down that road. Because, okay, yes, they are powerful. And, you know, I've seen numbers for certain Z moves that get close to 200. In terms of damage or power or whatever the hell they call it. Mm-hmm. And it's they're big numbers, and as far as I know, they can't miss, but I'm not 100% certain about that. But they just, after a while, the animations just become a bit boring. I'll just get tired of it. Mm-hmm. Just sort of, 20 seconds of somebody, impaling somebody into the ground, then lifting them up and throwing them in space, and X, Y, Z, pun not intended. And I just got bored with them, to be honest. And I still use them occasionally, but I think limiting them to one per battle was absolutely necessary, and they definitely handled it in the right way. But if it gets dropped next generation, I'm not going to lose any sleep.
I think that they're kind of boring in the main story because, as Alex was saying, they get a little repetitive. I do think that they're an interesting addition to the competitive scene, and I think that they will have a lot more punch when you're actually playing against other people. And I especially like the monster-specific Z moves. The generalized type ones are a tiny bit boring. But I really enjoyed the Z move for Linton's evolution because I don't know, it's cinematic and it made me chuckle a little bit every time I ended up using it. I do think that there are a lot of trade-offs to using Z moves. For example, because it's a held item, you can't use a lot of held items, which are really crucial when you're playing competitively. So it'll be really interesting to see if people determine that they are worth using. Mega Evolution certainly ended up being worth using at the end of the day, but I think that I don't think that they're going to be, kind of a game changer. I think that they'll kind of augment things, and you'll see certain builds that will certainly use the Z moves. So it's one more thing that changes things up, and they're fun to look at, if nothing else, but I don't think they really get a chance to shine in the main story.
Did anyone else get a distinct taste with the Incineroar's specific thingy? What's it called? Z move. I completely forgot the name of it. Did anyone else get a distinct feel of Pikachu Libre about that?
Oh, yeah, just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
I loved it, though. It was great.
Yeah, but once you've seen it once, you sort of get a little bit tired of it, like with every other Z move. But, you know, that's just me. That's just me.
I don't know. Seeing my character's kind of like blank smile and her like pointing straight up and an Incineroar like flying up, it was fun. I enjoyed it.
I do love the blank smile in a weird way, because you got, you know, most of the other characters have got, you know, several faces to pull, and yet your character always just, you know, stares with this 1,000-yard stare, looking out into nothing.
I'm not paying
with this
attention at
delicate
all.
little smile on its face.
Just smiles right through you.
It does, and it's a little bit worrying. I wonder whether it can see something that we can't.
Straight into your soul. Oh, how? Yeah, it's just like, yeah, it's you're nice, it's cute. Just like a kind of benign, patronizing smile.
I think it changed up once or twice in the story, but then very quickly changes back to that face, as I'm now going to call it.
It was especially weird because, you know, all the other characters were so emotive and had different faces, as you said.
Probably still are.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be something they'll improve upon as they go along, because I do like having my character at least having some sort of personality to him. I don't know, kind of helps draw me in. But as far as the Z moves, I like how they're balanced for the main story. I like how they're not like an instant win button. You actually have to use planning ideas, figure out what you want to attach it to, because, you know, it's not going to be as powerful. Like, you might, I have this move that's power 40 right now, and if I power that up, I can totally take them out. Well, they're still resistant against it, and you took them down a little bit, but they're still hanging around. So I like how it sort of like augments what's already there. I'm sort of okay with it not being an instant win button, and how you can sort of protect against it. So it does feel very different from how Mega Evolution was. And I like how you can use any Pokemon you want along with it. Obviously, there's going to be ones that are better for it, because that's just how things always break down. But I think this is a good basis, and hopefully they continue to improve upon it. But the biggest issue is that the animations do get a little repetitious after a while. They're fun. They're definitely fun and impressive and, you know, cool to look at, but kind of like Final Fantasy Summons, like, okay, can you give me a skip button every so often, or a shortened version? And that's really what it comes down to for me, at least.
Yeah, I must admit, when it comes to the like the competitive side that you were saying, Kat, I think having it as, like, using it as a super powerful move against something that it'll be super effective against may not be the best course of action, because if you've got a move that can be super effective and is powerful enough to warrant being upgraded to be a Z move, surely you could just use that move if it's super effective. So, I mean, if you went up against something, it's your last Pokemon, and you need to whittle down this Shuckle or whatever it is, then, you know, sort of that's where I could see the Z moves being really useful, because you haven't got anything that can do enough damage in a short enough amount of time. So you use that, it's not going to kill it in one hit, but it's going to take off a lot of damage.
Yeah, I think it could be a really good wall breaker, to be honest.
Yeah.
And can break down stall teams. And I think that if you have a sweeper and you are powered up and you're trying to finish them off, delivering the coup de grace with a Z move against a wall that potentially would be able to stop you and finish you off, or end your sweep, could be really useful. So just having that extra punch can make a big difference, I think.
Mm-hmm. The strategies are going to be interesting. Like, I don't pay too much attention to pro Pokemon play, but I can definitely see people really coming up with a lot of different ideas of how they want to balance their teams out.
But it's not compatible with Mega Evolutions, so it's going to be really interesting to see which one ends up being kind of preeminent.
You can guarantee that there's some way, I'm sure you can, certainly in a double battle or something like that, I'm sure there's some way you could, you know, have a Pokemon Mega Evolve and then have a Z stone on your other Pokemon,
you totally
and then
can.
somehow swap them round, maybe, so that the Mega Evolve Pokemon uses an insanely powerful move. I can see, if that's possible, I can see people doing that in double battles, definitely.
That would be a lot of fun if you could do that. So, like, have the grass Z move on the other side, and then once they Mega Evolve, swap over the grass Z move over to them, and then theoretically be able to use it. I wonder if that would work. That would be kind of cool.
I'm not sure. The only thing I've thought of...
It's too slow, though.
Yeah.
It is slow, and one Pokemon's going to get knocked out, unless you're going up against a wall or something, in which case you should be okay.
Perhaps.
But then again, it's a double battle, so they got 2 people out. Ugh.
All the strategies
We're getting into the metagame already.
I don't think it would be worth it, personally, but it would be kind of a fun novelty. Let's be like showing off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it, yeah. Oh, boy. Well, any other things that you guys wanted to talk about when it comes to Sun and Moon?
Well, I haven't heard from my father in 5 years. Oh, no, Sun and Moon, sorry, yeah. Clarification, my father is still around. That's just a joke. Don't worry about that. I think the thing with Sun and Moon, and I tweeted this actually, but I thought I summed it up quite well, though I say so myself. The biggest compliment I can give Sun and Moon is I've been playing it for 2 weeks. You know, I gave up 2 weekends to play the arse off it. And, you know, I have, you know, really suffered my working hours playing Pokemon Sun and Moon, which is still kind of my job, but, you know, anyway. And the fact is that the review's done, and I still want to play it. I'm still going back and playing it. And I think that, if anything, that sums up just how good it is. You know, you can, you know, blitz through the game, although I did try to take my time, you know, really hammer through the game to the point where after a while I did sort of find myself not really enjoying it at times, but that's just because I'd been playing it for, you know, 10 hours straight and I needed a break, which I wasn't giving myself. But, you know, I still want to go back. I want to get back. I want to catch them all, which is never going to happen. But I can dream.
I tend to judge Pokemon games based on their post-game content. I already mentioned that Black 2 and White 2 are my favorite games in the series, mostly because of the Pokemon World Tournament, which I thought was just freaking awesome. You could fight all of the trainers from the past. There have been hints that this will in fact be in Sun and Moon. I really hope so, or something like it. And plus, like, Black 2 and White 2 had the goofy film studio, which I thought was a lot of fun. Stuff like that. That's the stuff that can really keep me playing in lieu of competitive battling. And so far, so good. I love that they brought back a variant of the Join Avenue. It's called the Festival Plaza. We didn't really talk about it, but mostly because we can't access it yet because we're not supposed to be going online. But just based on everything that I've seen of it, it's really intriguing because you have all these shops that give you like lots of really convenient items to be able to train up your monsters a lot more quickly. I love the Pokepelago, where you can go and kind of passively catch monsters by putting out berries and that kind of thing. And then you can, if my understanding is correctly, if you upgrade your Pokepelago, you can passively train your monsters, which I also find really interesting.
Yes.
That's true.
Because what it is they got rid of the daycare no longer levels up your Pokemon. It's only a nursery. So now that Pokepelago, where you can put in like much more than 2 Pokemon, you can train them up that way.
Yeah, I really like that. Maybe it won't be like an amazing way to get your monster like to level 100 or whatever, but I'm happy to see something like that makes my life easier, because one of the things that's been kind of tough about Pokemon is, on the one hand, training up a monster like really gives you like a complete sense of ownership. Like, you feel like you've really accomplished something when you've bred and trained and created like the best possible monster. On the other hand, it makes it a lot harder to experiment unless you're playing online on one of the simulators. Feels like you're really committing to something, because it can take upwards of like 2 to 3 hours to be able to do this, and that's if you're like going fast and you really know what you're doing. So anything to streamline the training process is good to me. But so yeah, I'm as I already mentioned, I'm on the final battle. I'm really desperately curious to see what happens after I finish off the final battle, but so far, like, the story was actually a pleasure to play through, and that is not something I have been able to say in a long time, like in quite a long time. So good on them. Game Freak really refreshed the series, in my opinion.
I mean, I pretty much laid it all out there in my review. This is, I mean, I still need to settle on it and go through and keep playing, but I've dedicated at least 55 hours to this game already. I'm still playing through it, still trying to find new things and all the little collectibles that you can find, and like the Zygarde cells and the TMs and all that good stuff. And that's mostly guide work type stuff, but I'm still enjoying it, enjoying the process of going through this place and seeing what change, what happens in the post game. Like, I don't want to comment anything about it because, you know, embargo and all that and spoilers and everything else, but it's been interesting, and the main story completely drew me in. I loved the positivity. I love the actual theming that they had of family and community, and I think, you know, a lot of people like to point to Gen 5, which was my previous favorite generation before this. Now, I believe this is my new favorite gen. But a lot of people pointed to Gen 5 as having the strongest story. And I agree. It was a very, very good story that they were telling there, but I also don't think they fully committed to what they were trying to tell with it. And I think with Sun and Moon, they actually commit to the themes they're going with and the idea they're going with, and it makes it more interesting to me that way. The story was a definite surprise, and it was nice to have some really strong characters to go with the entire time.
What they really need to commit to is the theme that Pokemon is actually Westworld and all the Pokemon are robots.
There we go.
Wake up, sheeple.
Alright, I think that covers it for our Sun and Moon discussion, so thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain. And Catherine, where can they find you at?
You can find me on usgamer.net and on Twitter at @the_Kappa. And if you enjoy my analysis of RPGs and things like that, you should check out my RPG podcast, Axe of the Blood God, which you can find on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, wherever, SoundCloud, wherever else you're going to find our podcasts. We are going to have a big Pokemon episode this week, and
nice.
possibly in the future.
That's awesome. Alex, what about you?
Well, if you didn't get tired of my voice already, you can also go and look at my face by checking out Nintendo Life on YouTube. You can click that card up there if the lovely people at GameXplain are nice enough to stick one in. And you can also find us on Twitter at Nintendo Life. You can find me on Twitter at Alex_Olney. Try and spell that one. And yeah, just check out Nintendo Life. We're doing all sorts of lovely Nintendo-based stuff, which isn't surprising given our name. And yeah, I'm there. So have fun.
Yeah, that's all the more reason you need, right? And of course, stay tuned to GameXplain for more on Pokemon, including a bunch of guides and other things gaming too. Until next time, bye.